Welcome back! Left on my own to counterculture.
Drop the ball on you.
There we go.
I just
left me.
I'm counterculture by not
the culture has become.
Norm.
We do this is true. Welcome to a new version of counterculture. Right?
Just today, anyway.
All right, listen. I want you to read some things, and I'm going to ask you the question I just asked you. Are you ready?
Yep.
Matthew chapter 3.
Yep.
Could you read some verses for me?
Yep.
How about like the first 5?
Yep.
Good, thanks.
Yep. Now?
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be super. Way to be counterculture.
In those days, John the Baptist came, preaching in the desert of Judea, and saying, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near." This is he who was spoken of through the prophet Isaiah. I found out you're supposed to say it Isaiah.
Isaiah. I found that out there.
Like N.T. Wright says Isaiah.
I just heard Turkey is actually Turkey.
Well, there you go.
How do you know these things?
They change all the rules on us. A voice of one calling in the desert, "Prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him." John's clothes were made of camel's hair, and he had a leather belt around his waist. His food was locusts and wild honey. People went out to him from Jerusalem and all Judea and the whole region of the Jordan, confessing their sins. They were baptized by him in the Jordan River.
Okay, here's my question.
Yep.
John the Baptist.
Yep.
Was he dapper?
No.
Let's
wait.
Let's you tell me what you mean.
So we looked up to that. I know. In what we think of dapper, he was not well dressed. He was not well put together, but he was lively and alert, which is another. I'm a word guy. I love looking up words. We were talking about that this morning, and he was lively and alert.
So was he partly dapper?
He was kind of dapper.
What could you?
But now I will say this: he had a camel hair blazer,
right? So could you
with a Corinthian leather belt?
I think he was dapper.
He ate exotic foods. He could have been dapper. I am willing to concede. I reserve the right to change my mind.
Thank you. I think
he was dapper.
I think he was dapper. When we think of the word dapper,
he might not have been debonair.
Ooh, now see,
that's another story.
When we think of dapper, I tend to think of somebody that, in a good way, stands out from everybody. It's like, wow, holy cow! You're the way you dressed, right? It took me.
Putting on the nines.
There you go.
We think of dapper, but
exactly. But somehow John the Baptist got the attention of people, right? Mm-hmm. So in our culture today, if someone was dressed like John the Baptist, we tend to not think he was dapper. We tend to think he was this, this guy who just threw on some camel hair and a belt and was good, right? Why would people ever have gone out to this man and listened to him? I get why they would go out to him because he was different, counterculture.
Yeah.
But why would they listen to somebody that was dressed like this?
Okay, so aren't we doing that kind of in the church today?
What do you ever mean?
Okay, so, we're the church that meets at the movie theater. Or we're the church that... I preached one time at a church that had been turned into an Irish pub.
Ooh.
And so this group of people had church at this Irish pub, and then we ate some good Irish food at this Irish pub. So I'm preaching, and there's Guinness signs and all sorts of stuff. And we had church. It was a beautiful thing.
Did a funeral in a bar where everybody had a beer.
Exactly. So but it can become the unique thing. I have told my congregation the one thing you are not going to see your pastor doing is wearing skinny jeans. They have to be peeled off me because, number one, I'm too old for it, and I don't want to be. It just doesn't work for me.
No, thank you.
Not going to change my name to Marky Mark or pastor or anything like that. Okay, I knew a pastor that one time changed name. He didn't go by just Jim. It was Jimmy, Pastor Jimmy, because it sounded cooler. Now you could argue pastors like you and I don't need to be cooler. We got a coolness to us. No, I doubt that. Is it about but aren't we attracted to the unique?
We are.
We're attracted so I've experienced where some of those churches, when they find they're meeting in this unique place, and all of a sudden they buy a church and they go to the church, and all of a sudden the attendance goes down because it's not the cool church anymore. And all of a sudden the pastor realizes, wait a minute, it wasn't about me? No, it wasn't. Nor should it be.
It was about
So, no,
uniqueness.
we're going back. And I saw one of the reports about Asbury.
Yeah.
A plain old building, and not a fancy building. My nephew is the worship leader at a church, an old stone church, almost like a cathedral, in a town in Ohio. And they started meeting in the basement. The church was dying up, and then the people said, "You know what, Pastor? We want to give you the church. Take the church to it." They do not have padded pews. They are the old dark wood. They have not changed anything in there except for maybe to put a couple screens up for the music. They make it work. And you know what? They before COVID, they were doing 3 services a day because it was not about the building. It was about the Spirit of God being there. And are we seeking that? Are we seeking that uniqueness?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, apparently here, people were seeking the uniqueness. They went
Yeah.
out. They had to go out to see him.
And
in
it's
the
not a bad
wilderness.
thing necessarily. I mean, it may get them in there, but you better take advantage of the opportunity that they are coming out
There you
and
go.
use it right.
John
Which
did
John
that.
did. And look at his message.
Yep.
Repent, you filthy sinners. He was not but isn't it interesting that, yes, they're attracted to one thing, but they were not repulsed by what they heard either.
So that was my question, right? We constantly think that if we do not fit in, that somehow if we do Dapper Christianity, which sounds like a great sermon title to me, right? If we do Dapper Christianity, people are going to be turned off.
Right.
People are going to go a different direction. But we get an example here when God says, no, if you stand out, then guess what? I'll give you the message to go out with your standability. Right? I'll give you what goes with it. These people might have gone out to see Crazy John, but what they ended up doing was responding to the love of God, right, through a really hard message.
And so Pastor Bob and I talked about this. He'd probably talk to you too about winsomeness, which is not about the way you dress necessarily.
No.
It is about an attractiveness, and that ultimately that attractiveness should be, because here's the thing: most people don't remember what I wore on Sunday morning. But do they sense that the love of God through us?
Yep.
Which is why when Paul talks in Colossians about how we're supposed to dress,
Yep.
God eats popcorn. Say Colossians, and says to clothe ourselves as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved. Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Those are pretty much the fruit of the Spirit, by the way. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love. I think that camel hair jacket was love. Or in my case, maybe it's this.
It's how you
my
look.
my vest. Is that's how we're supposed to be clothed.
Yeah. So again, if you went into Dollar General right after this, right, and you're dressed pretty dapperly, like you're going to stand out from some of the people around you, and something happens within that store, and you just start a tirade, right, of yelling at the cashier. People are gonna know that you stood out, right? But what are they gonna remember? Yeah, it was the guy who was dressed really nicely who was yelling. But if you're dressed nicely and something happens and you come to the rescue, or you show compassion, like, hey, take your time, don't worry about it, I'm okay, that's going to be remembered as well.
How we treat people.
So John could have been dressed like this and been an absolute tyrant.
And he also could have been a Rich Mullins who did not care how he looked like a vagabond, but had a huge impact on people.
Exactly, right? So again, this goes together. Dapperness, that being set apart, but that also being excited, that being, like ready to go, right? Infused with some life. That's going to not only attract people initially, but win them over.
Because we know that Jesus always had his hair cut like any nice Christian young man would.
Yeah, like you and I. A little bit gray, a little salt and pepper. It would have been great.
You talking about you?
That's exactly what I was just thinking when I just said that. Don't tell Pastor Mark that his hair might be changing.
So I was checking my trail cam that shines in my backyard because I hadn't done it like since October, and I'm surfing through it. It was kind of cool to see when the snow came, when else. And I said to my wife, we got to start watching the backyard. I said there was a gray-haired guy in our backyard wandered around, and we had a good laugh about it.
I can imagine that.
Yes.
All right, let's leave it right there. Counterculture. We hope you think about Christian dapperness maybe for a minute or two.
Indeed.
See,
I think you're quite dapper today.
Oh, that's really, really cool. Hey, what we care about is that you're getting an opportunity to win some people over.
By all
to the cause of
means,
Christ.
win some.
That's right. So it means if you have to dress a little nicer today, dress a little nicer. We'll see you next time. Counterculture.
Grace and peace.